Welcome to the Productive Life podcast hosted by me, Megan Minns. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to be more productive in their business and their personal life. Because as a business owner, your business and personal life are connected, and we can't talk about one without talking about the other. Each week, you'll learn about productivity, organization, personal development, self-care, business strategies, and more. And now, let's get started. Welcome to this episode of the Productive Life podcast. I am so excited for this episode because we're talking all about how to do a mid-year review. So if you're not familiar with what a mid-year review even is, it's very simply an opportunity to reflect on how you're doing with hitting your goals and objectives that you set out at the beginning of the year. We're in the middle of June, so now is the perfect time to pause and do a little bit of reflection so that you can go into the rest of the year with clarity on things you want to keep doing, things you want to shift, and really just recommit to some of the things you set out to do 6 months ago. A lot can change in a normal year, and I think we would all agree that 2020 in particular has had a lot of surprises in store for all of us. So chances are that the intentions we had at the beginning of the year have evolved. We have changed, we've grown, we've learned a lot, and this is a great chance for us to really stop, you as the CEO, the business owner, and the individual, just to spend 30 minutes or less just reflecting so that you can really be intentional with how you're spending the rest of the year. Otherwise, when we don't stop and have these checkpoints, we often float through our days. We are reactive, we aren't very intentional, and suddenly at the end of the year, you are totally off track from where you intended to be at the beginning of the year. So that's why we really want to make sure we're doing this. And you can do this at any point in the year. You don't have to do it right in the middle of the year, but it's a great opportunity as we're wrapping up a quarter to clarify what we want to do next and do differently for the rest of the year. So let's get into the nitty-gritty details of how to do a mid-year review. It's actually fairly simple, and we've also got a great worksheet for you that will help guide you through this process as well. But I'm going to verbally walk you through all the questions to ask yourself and everything. So the very first thing I want you to do is to dedicate 30 minutes, put it on your calendar where you as the CEO can go somewhere where you won't be interrupted, you won't be disturbed, where it's a little quiet. You can light a candle, set the mood, put on headphones, put on good music, and really give yourself space and time to do this reflection. So figure out, step number one is figure out when that's going to happen and schedule it on your calendar. You can do it right now after you're done listening to this episode if you would like. But I really want you to actually dedicate 30 minutes to this. Step number two is to either grab a piece of paper. If you are a pen and paper person, you can grab a journal. Or if you would like, we actually have a Google Doc worksheet already set up for you. And you can go to meganminns.com/mid-year review or click the link beneath this episode to go ahead and grab this mid-year review worksheet where it'll guide you through all of the questions you want to ask yourself. So step two, either pen and paper or go ahead and grab that free worksheet right now. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to break the entire review into 3 parts. So part number 1 is reflection. So there are some pretty key questions I want you to ask yourself as you are reflecting on the past 6 months. So the first question is, how do you feel about the past 6 months? I often find that when we're just starting to do any kind of reflection, we kind of want to give ourselves the opportunity to brain dump and get everything that's out of your head onto paper. So we're starting out pretty broad. So how do you feel about the past 6 months? Let it all out. The second question is, what didn't go well the past 6 months? Then you want to ask, what did go well the past 6 months? Then you want to identify and reflect on wins that you had over the past 6 months. Wins can be big or small, personal or business related. We so often move on. We have a big accomplishment or win and we just move on to the next thing. So regardless of how monumental the wins were, it is really critical to identify the wins from the past 6 months. So make sure you're doing that. The next question is, how do you feel about your business the past 6 months? What are you happy with and what would you like to improve? Again, we're really just getting stuff out of your head that maybe has been clouding your mind, or thoughts that you've shared, limiting beliefs that have been holding you back, fears. And we're actually getting it out of your head so that we can really process it and stop being mentally clouded by it. The next question is, how do you feel about your personal life from the last 6 months? What are you happy with and what would you like to improve? Then one of my favorite questions is, how was your work-life balance the past 6 months? And how do you feel about it? Were you really happy with it? Not happy, especially with quarantine. I know a lot of us who were working from home maybe had a really interesting work-life balance the past 6 months. So you definitely want to take a moment to reflect on that. Then I want you to ask, how did you spend your time the past 6 months and how are you feeling about that? So overall, are you happy with what took up most of your time on a daily or weekly basis, where your energy was going? How does that feel? Then I want you to ask yourself, what did you prioritize the last 6 months? And how do you feel about that? Have your priorities been in alignment with what you wanted them to be? Or have you been totally out of whack with where you want to be? Then I want you to ask yourself, have the past 6 months brought you closer to your big picture vision or farther from it? One of the exercises I do with my clients is we do this thing called the big picture vision. Ultimately, it's getting clarity on what you want your entire life, personal and business, to look and feel like 3 years from now. So the past 6 months, have we gotten closer to that 3-year vision or have we actually taken a step back from it? And then the last question in the reflection section of this is anything else that comes up for you. It's a free space to just document and process whatever else is on your mind at this point that you just need to stream of consciousness, get out of your head and put on paper. So that's part 1 of the mid-year review, is actually doing these almost journaling prompts for what the past 6 months looked like, what we liked, what we didn't, and what we can learn from that. Part 2 is reviewing. So this is where we're actually going to look at where you want it to be versus where you are. So the first question is, what were your objectives for this year? And how much progress have you made towards them? And are you on track? So if you're a business owner, you probably have a revenue objective for the year. So this is a great opportunity to identify what that number was. How much progress have you made towards that? Are you on track to hit that objective? Are you behind? Where are we at with the actual objectives that you set out for this year? Then I want you to ask yourself and reflect back on what were your goals for the first quarter of this year. So for January through March, what were your goals? What were you trying to accomplish? And were you able to accomplish them? Or did things prevent you from actually seeing it all the way through? So I want you to really reflect specifically on those 3 months. Then I want you to reflect on this quarter. So for April, May, and June, what were your goals for this quarter that we're wrapping up right now? And have you been able to accomplish them? You know, there's still a little bit of time left in June, so it's okay if you haven't. But where are you at? How has the past 3 months been? What takeaways can we have from this 3-month period in particular? And then the last question for this review phase is, what takeaways do you have from reviewing these numbers, from reviewing the actual hard facts of what did get hit and what didn't and why? What takeaways do you have? What did you learn from this after reflecting? And your takeaways and lessons may look very different than someone else's because we all have such unique experiences. So what were your takeaways? What can you really glean from this information besides I did or didn't do something? I want you to not just say, well, I didn't hit my goal. I want this to be more meaningful. Like between the information of part 1 and part 2, what have we learned? What do we want to change? Because now we're going to be entering part 3 of our mid-year review, which I love. What's it called when you have the same word with alliteration? Sorry, all the R's. I have all 3 parts are R's. So part 3 is refresh. So what we're going to do in part 3 of our mid-year review is we're going to turn all of this reflection, all of this review into refreshed commitments for the next 6 months. We're not actually setting your next 90-day goals right now. We're going to be doing that in an actual 90-day goal planning session. But this is the information we want to have going into that. I want you to go into your next 90-day planning session with this context and information. So the first question to ask yourself is, what do you want to commit to doing for the next 6 months? This could be personal habits, routines. This could be, showing up in certain ways on your business. This could be mindset. This could be very tactical. Whatever has come up for you in all of this, it could be hiring. It could be organizing your business or systemizing things. Literally any takeaway is good here, but what are your new commitments? Some of them maybe you've already been committed to, but we're going to recommit. So what are the commitments that you're going to hold for yourself for the next 6 months? Then I want you to commit to stop doing certain things for the next 6 months. I know for myself, I am by nature a night owl, and I have been in a really bad habit in the month of June of staying up really late, sleeping in, and kind of living in my old college life cycle almost. And that has had negative consequences for me. It was a bad habit that kind of started coming through for me during quarantine. And I just let it happen. And I don't want to do that anymore. It isn't serving me. And so I am committing to stop staying up that late. And so you'll see you might have commitments and things you're going to commit to stop doing that are related. So maybe I commit to going to bed by a certain time, or I commit to getting a certain number of hours of sleep, or I commit to getting off social media at a certain time. Again, these can be anything for you. And then the stop commitment could be I'm going to stop staying up late. So what are the things you're going to stop doing the next 6 months? And then the very last question for this mid-year review is, what action steps do you have for yourself from this? I think anytime we're doing any journal prompts or exercises like this, it's really important that we don't just answer the questions, but we really turn that into actual action steps, things that you can add to your project management system, things that you can build into your weekly schedule, things that you can share with your team or your family members or your friends, and actually have action steps from them. So I want you to take a minute as you're wrapping up your mid-year review and identify the action steps that you actually have from this. Put it in a bullet pointed checklist, add it into your systems, add it into how you spend your time, and make sure you're truly taking the time to implement all of these action steps. So that is very simply the mid-year review. And the action steps that you have from this, you're also going to be taking a lot of this into your 90-day planning, and make sure you are making plans and goals and committing to projects with this information in mind, with this context, and not just letting yourself fall back into the patterns of overcommitting or trying to take on too much or taking on opportunities that aren't in alignment with where you're trying to go. So that's the 3-part mid-year review. Again, we do have a free worksheet where you can actually download every single question I just ran through. It's there in a Google Doc, and you can go to meganmintz.com/mid-year review, and you'll be able to grab that. I am really excited to hear how this goes for you. If you are the type of person who doesn't often pause and reflect, I would love to hear from you on Instagram stories, or if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, in the comments after you've done your mid-year review. Let me know what came out for you through this. Did you have really interesting takeaways or lessons or things that surprised you? I always find it so fascinating that this moment to reflect can really teach us so much. And what's really cool is that every single answer that you just had was already in your head. We just took the time to get it out of your head, get it onto paper, and do something about it. So I'm really excited for you to do your mid-year review. Make sure you do this before you sit down to plan your next 90-day goals. And I can't wait to hear how this goes. So just to recap, you're going to do part 1, reflection, part 2, review the stats and your goals from this year, and then refresh your commitments for the next 6 months. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to go to meganmintz.com/mid-year review to grab the free worksheet. And I also wanted to let you know that we do have a brand new free Facebook community called Empowered Entrepreneurs, and you are absolutely invited to join us there. So if you want to go to meganmintz.com/community, you can join us in our free Facebook group. And we also have a masterclass, a 5-day live series happening in July called Solo to CEO. So if you are a business owner who is currently a solopreneur, who is ready to step it up and take your business to the next level, be serious, and really step into that level of CEO, then this is the perfect free 5-day live training series. So you can go to meganmintz.com/solo to CEO to learn more, register, and get ready for the July workshop. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will chat with you in the next one. Thank you for listening to the Productive Life podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, it would mean so much to me if you would share your biggest takeaway on your Instagram stories or wherever you hang out. This helps me understand what you find the most helpful so that I can make more episodes and resources like this. If this podcast has helped you at all, please take just 1 minute to leave a review on iTunes so that we can help spread the word about the Productive Life podcast with others who may enjoy it. And last but not least, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest episodes sent to you directly. To learn how to work with me one-on-one or get instant access to freebies, trainings, templates, workshops, and more, be sure to go to meganmins.com right now. I'll see you in the next episode.